Hi everyone, Wednesday. Hope you all are doing well and maybe out on this beautiful day and enjoying some of this gorgeous weather. This week I want to go ahead and continue with, and probably for the next several weeks, just some books that I think can be quite valuable in terms of addressing health and prevention and longevity, which is what we try to help all our patients do around here. And last week, if you recall, we talked a little bit about sleep and how important that is. And this week, I want to introduce you, if you don't already know, Dr. Jason Fung. And I'm going to probably review another one of his most recent book came out. But this one was the first book that came out in 2016. And I think it came out in 2016. And anyway, yes. I think it has probably changed my viewpoint and just a huge paradigm shift in what I now perceive as trying to help folks improve not only their cardiovascular and metabolic health, but I think probably the best way to look at weight management and trying to understand what causes weight gain. Because one of the things he walks through, and I'll kind of give you just a brief discussion of the book, but the big paradigm shift is understanding that weight gain is not about calories in, calories out, which is what we've, for the last 50 years, have been trying to achieve weight loss with less calories in and exercising more. And it just has never really worked in the long run. And the paradigm shift that came about through this book was understanding what it is that causes weight gain. And we know that eating less doesn't cause weight loss, exercising more does not cause weight loss either, and it's really controlling and understanding the hormone insulin. It is not simple numbers, it really comes down to hormones, and the main hormone that causes growth in the body, and we did a whole lot of all this information when we went through insulin resistance, and insulin is the growth hormone and the hormone that causes weight gain. It's all about the body's innate ability to store nuts for the winter, so to speak, so that in times of less, we are able to reach into these stores and have energy. And this was the human condition for millennia. And now in our world today, it's very fascinating that we have plenty and we are overwhelmed by that plenty. In reading a lot of the information, I was intrigued to know that probably in the 1800s up until the 1950s, people really understood that it was carbohydrates and sugars and starches that caused weight gain. And all of a sudden, we began to shift from this understanding of carbohydrates. We didn't really know why, but we shifted from vilifying carbohydrates to beginning to vilify fat. And that's when all of a sudden the food industry changed and metabolic issues began to be more and more. And I think at the onset, obviously, the idea was to try to reduce heart disease. This was during the 50s. I think Truman had a heart attack, or Eisenhower, one of the presidents at that point, and the national health committees at that point really wanted to address heart disease. And as a result, what came about was the studies from a gentleman by the name of Ansel Keys, who decided that fat was really the problem, and industry and all the food companies began to then shift from natural ingredients to poor quality foods and processed foods and substantial numbers of carbohydrates, which were filling people up, because when you take fat away, you no longer have any way to be satisfied and satiated with food. Fat really is one of the vital aspects of that. And when you take away fat too, in order to compensate for that, the thing that would go up was carbohydrates. And as a result, this raises insulin, and we begin to see what has happened over the last 50 years in the obesity rates. And even though people are exercising more, we know that exercise doesn't help because it just increases hunger. And hunger drives appetite, which drives eating more. So I think this book really has such great value in understanding the why and how we got here, and then gives you a game plan. And of course, it comes down to what we've been talking about for the last year, is understanding perhaps eating less often, which is fasting, intermittent fasting. It's not just a fad. There's definitely data that is coming out all the time that is in support of doing some type of fasting, just limiting eating to some degree, and certainly not eating all day long, which is going to cause insulin to go up all throughout the day. You want to try to eliminate that. This eating 5 or 6 times a day is not beneficial to the human condition either. So Jason Fung, The Obesity Code, great book for understanding the why and how we got here, and then what to do about how to gain some type of grip over how we choose to eat and when. It's not always just what we eat, but when we eat, and trying to eliminate snacking, trying to occasionally eliminate our a meal here and there, and then just trying to eat in certain window periods of time and not spreading out eating, and also eating earlier in the evening so that we don't have any digestive issues going to sleep, and that optimizes our sleep. So I think this is a really great book. I would encourage you to read it. If you are like me and you have much more time for your ears than your eyes, you can listen to it online. Audible has a copy as well. And it's one of those things that I pull out maybe once every 6 to 12 months and listen to again and again, because I always pick up new ideas and new thoughts with that. Hopefully that's helpful, and we'll see you again next week. And I'm not sure what we'll talk about next week, but I'll find a good book and we'll review that as well. Have a great week.